Hello, and welcome to the Relationships and Recovery Stigma Reduction web series that's brought to you by the McLean County Recovery Oriented Systems of Care, or ROSC. And the McLean County ROSC is comprised of many agencies here in McLean County helping individuals that are going through the recovery process. So, the purpose of the End of the Stigma series is to end social and physical isolation of those living with mental and behavioral health symptoms, provide accurate information on a variety of topics that may create stigma, create connection and inclusion across all systems and settings, promote systematic changes within our community to promote mental and behavioral health, to end barriers associated with seeking help for mental and behavioral health symptoms, increase and improve access to care for mental and behavioral health services. So during the healthy relationships, there are two major components of a healthy relationship. It's communication and boundaries. And if we take a look to the right-hand part of the slide, the healthy relationship wheel, we have seen this in other um, presentations in this web series on ending the stigma. So you'll see this a couple other times if you're watching the other presentations in this series. But first, let's really talk about communication and how this is going to be coming up through all the different parts of the presentation today. So dynamics of healthy communication. You need to treat others with respect. Speak openly to one another about thoughts and feelings. Feeling heard when expressing feelings. Listen to each other and compromise. Do not criticize each other. Feel supported to do things and celebrate each other's accomplishments and successes. And then the goals of boundaries, which we'll talk a little bit about as we go through here as well. But each person is able to express what they are and are not comfortable with regarding sex life, family, friends, finances, personal time, and space. So the objectives of this webinar are to talk about the relationships while in recovery. So we're going to go over social relationships with like friends and being out socially, familial relationships, talking about being with your family, like say spouses, brothers, sisters, siblings, parents, kids, aunts, uncles, whatever you consider your family, and then your intimate relationships. So this is going to be like your spouses, your partners, things like that. The information that we're going to be talking about today was actually gathered through a survey that we have done with many individuals who are currently in recovery. And that is from recovery at its early stages, like maybe 1 or 2 months, all the way up to recovery for 10 to 15 years, however long somebody's been in recovery. We tried to gather as much information as we could. And these are some of the stuff that they talked about during the survey that we provided. So, friendship dynamics in recovery. So, the definition of a friend has changed. A lot of individuals discuss how friendships have more meaning and are more authentic. There's more trust and honesty, and that's because they are developing relationships now or friendships now to where it's about helping or having individuals that are helping them through their recovery, or they're hanging out with their individuals or becoming friends with individuals who maybe don't know about their addiction past, when it's before they were only hanging out with people who were using at that time, or friends that were helping them use, or friends that were kind of you'll hear this a couple other times as well, but kind of toxic for them because they were encouraging their use. So the definition of friend just changed. It's not the individual that they were using with who they were only concerned about using with, but now it's individuals who help them improve their lives and the quality of their lives. The friendships they have are a lot more honest than they were before. They're much better quality relationships. They're not based on that using like we've talked about, and that they've improved dramatically as they've gone through. Friends who are also in recovery are supportive of their recovery. So a lot of individuals talked about how they're role models to others and how some of their friends are role models to them. So if we think about stuff like NACA, AA, things like that, and how there's sponsorships that go through there, so individuals who were really relied heavily on their sponsor when they were first going through the recovery process, as they continue to go through, and then as they were starting to do better with their recovery, they became a sponsor or role model to others. And so the golden rule is really into effect when we think about this, that do unto others as you would have them do unto you. It's something that a lot of individuals talked about because they want to be open, they want to be honest, they want to have these meaningful friendships now while they're in recovery. That might have not been the same story when they were working through their substance use addiction. And that the social relationships and boundaries have changed a little bit as well. So choosing not to use. So let people know that you do not use or do not drink or use drugs. So you might still have some of those friends who you were with in the past that weren't considered, like, say, individuals that were addicted to something, but they were maybe like part of your social network, like work friends or other friends you've had for a long time, who might still use substances. But just you letting them know that you do not drink or you do not use substances is a big thing to talk about that, and having them um, accept that part of you now, and being okay in uncomfortable situations. Sometimes people want to go, like, say, go to a concert, watch the game, do things like that, where substances, like, say, drinking especially, might be part of that. And, if you're okay to be in that situation where it's a little bit uncomfortable for you, it's okay to be in that situation sometimes. However, you still need to know your boundaries as well. So you don't want to put yourself in situations where they could be triggering you. So say if you used to go to the bar to watch the game quite a bit, and that led you to maybe drinking quite a bit that day. Can you still do that? Maybe you can. Maybe that's a trigger for you, and that's okay. You just don't have to put yourself in that situation. Your friends will understand that at first. And you also have to be in self control and adhere to your boundaries. So you really have to be in that moment. Maybe you don't hang out places that have triggers when you're first going through recovery, but later on you can go do it in your recovery. Maybe you're never going to be able to do some of that before. So you might switch from, watching the game in a bar to watching it to a friend's house, or maybe your house, where you can kind of control the situation a little bit more as you're going through. So just be aware of that, especially in social settings. And when we talk about the familial relationship, so rebuilding trust and being active and present. So, your friends and family are going to learn to trust you again because you're accountable for your behavior. So you have to be aware of some of the pain that you caused your family and friends, and also have an unfettered transparency to thrive. Let your family know and your friends know that, hey, I'm really in recovery. I'm involved in this. I want recovery. I want my recovery to go well, and that it's also, there's some daily struggles that go on in recovery, and they can help you with those struggles. You need to be more engaged in the lives of your loved ones. So before, you might have, I mean, honestly, you could have been a little bit selfish when you're going through your addiction. It's all about you and what you were doing at that time. So now that you're going through recovery, you're really wanting to be engaged and be involved in the lives of your loved ones more. And as you're doing this, your self-esteem will improve. And you're going to have more self-confidence. And as it decreases, um, in the desire to escape from reality, increases a positive view on life. So your family can really help you with that too, because they know that um, there's some stuff that was going on, and then all of a sudden you're doing better. And so they're going to be able to have these positive things, which you're going to feed off of and improve your self esteem. And it just kind of builds and builds off of each other. So that's another great thing when we're talking about the familial relationships. And like I said, we're talking a lot about communication in here. So communicating with your family about your addiction, that you do not have a choice, that some genetic predisposition for addiction occurs, but you do have a choice to follow your own recovery path. So that your addiction was fueled by thinking patterns and behaviors. So sometimes you have to change those patterns, you have to change those behaviors, because like we said, recovery is a daily struggle, and it's on a day-to-day basis that you're going through. Um, and then it's not a moral choice. It's not like that you had an addiction because you were a bad person. Like we said, there's a lot of genetic predisposition that happens to this too. So maybe the addiction that you were going through might have been a lot worse than some other addictions that are going on in your family. But there are some things that may be happening, and having an individual see that you went through this and that you're in recovery will help them later on as well. So letting the individuals know that you love them and they always appreciate their efforts to help you, and you will continue to love uh, love and appreciate their efforts to help you. And that recovery has brought you gratitude for your relationships with your family, that you own the pain that you caused them. We talked a little bit about that earlier, but you really want to be there for them. They're the individuals that maybe helped you out throughout this process. And like we said, there might be some intergenerational addiction as well, and talking about that and helping individuals who, maybe you see a niece or nephew who's kind of young that might have some of these traits that you had before you started using the substances, and really helping them to lead them on that path to where they don't go down through the same substance addiction um, instances and experiences that you had. And that can be part of your recovery as well. So really helping your family out. Your intimate partner relationships. So like I said, your partners, your spouses, but the relationship dynamics are based on recovery, and it's really improved if one or both partners are in recovery. So say two individuals were together and they were using substances together a lot. One chooses to be in recovery, one chooses not to. That can be helpful and hurtful at the same time, because it can be helpful maybe for the individual that's still using substances, seeing somebody go through the recovery process and maybe want to help them go through the recovery process. But then it can also hurt the individual that's going through recovery if they're still, say, having triggers of traumatic experiences. They want to use substances. They're putting themselves in uncomfortable situations. They're not just quite ready to say no when they're in some of those situations as well. So their partner using could actually drag them back from recovery into substance use again. So you need to be really aware of that. And if that is happening, or somebody is dragging you from recovery back into substance use, maybe it's you have to part ways with that individual that is still using. I'm not saying you can't be there for them later on. However, you might not need to have them as an intimate partner if it's going to endanger your recovery process. And like I said, improve communication and honesty. You need to redefine roles and expectations. Roles change as you're going from, the substance use to in recovery, because all of a sudden the individual is looking at you different. Your roles might be different. There might be different things that are happening as you go into that recovery process. And then you always want to work through obstacles in a constructive way. So really kind of work with those individuals, go through everything, and just work through them with your intimate partner, build that relationship maybe with them again a little bit more as you go through. And sharing your addiction past with your intimate partner, and communication. Like I said, we talked about this quite a bit, but being transparent with your partner, letting your partner know that recovery is a daily occurrence. Some individuals talked about how their significant other, their partner, was well aware of this because they've seen it for the past 15 years. So now that they're going through recovery, they're completely open and honest and really working with those individuals. And then sharing the trigger events and emotional situations, letting them know that these things might trigger certain things where, maybe it was things that you did together, but it really triggered your need to use substances. Sharing that with your partner, letting them know about that, and then avoiding those situations when you can. And then also letting them know that the addiction was not their fault. I mean, this is something that happens. Especially we talked about that genetic predisposition earlier and some other things. So this isn't a moral choice that you had because your partner led you to be addicted to substances. It wasn't their fault. There were some other things that were going on. You needed to fill the void in your life, and unfortunately, they weren't able to fill. But if you talk about these things, let them know these things. Let them know that you're needing help because of these. Is really a great way to build these relationships up stronger than they might have been before. So here's the relationship spectrum. We've seen this on a couple other different series during this webinar, presentations during this webinar series. So you really want to be in that green to orange, or that healthy to unhealthy, because not everything is going to be perfectly healthy all the time. It might be unhealthy or even lead to abusive, but really working on those relationships and trying to be somewhere in the middle of that, healthy would be what you really want to strive for. And then here are some other resources that we looked into and we've seen about what others say about relationships. So these are going to be professional books, journals, presentations, other things like that, where individuals have talked about what's going on when you're going through recovery and relationships. And we have some tips here on the right-hand side too for cultivating positive relationships during recovery. So I'm not going to go through all those, but definitely take a look at those when you're reading through the slide or looking through the slides. What others say about relationships, again, continued. So these are some other individuals that we pulled some information from, and all the books or articles or whatever that we found all this stuff in is going to be listed at the end of the presentation. So feel free to even yourself look into these a little bit more. And here are some McLean County resources that we have. So we have Smart Recovery, we have Al-Anon, which is family groups. We have PATH, which is a lot of great things here in the community. And here's some national resources as well. So we have Recovery Centers of America. You can find resources that are close to you, and then also find an Al-Anon meeting that's close to you as well. So this is some great information. And then we also have our references right here. So some of those sayings and quotes that we had in earlier slides and earlier in the presentation, you can find all that information here. So I hope you enjoyed today's presentation. We look forward to seeing you on the next one. Have a good day.